Hello and welcome to another edition of Theology Thursday. Before I begin today, I just want to give a shout out. Just so happens that today is my grandson's birthday, so April 14th. So Ezra, happy birthday. Sunday is Easter, so obviously we're thinking about the resurrection. So I want to talk about resurrection today, but not as much the resurrection about Jesus, but about our resurrection. This is mentioned numerous places in the Bible. However, the longest, most detailed, extensive discussion is found in 1 Corinthians chapter 15. And so I want to look at it, and then I want to talk a little bit about it and about how it applies to us and what to think about. So in 1 Corinthians 15, and we're not going to do the whole, I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's lengthy, but in the first 11 verses, he discusses the resurrection of Jesus from the dead and talks about what he did, came back from the dead. And then starting in verse 12 of 1 Corinthians 15, he's going to begin then to describe what it's like. But I don't want to read all this either, because essentially in verse 12, all the way down through verse 34, basically what he says is Jesus rose from the dead, he came first, and then at some point we also are going to rise from the dead. And he makes this big argument that there's going to be a resurrection. Starting then in verse 36, he's going to now discuss what this resurrection body is like, and that's where I want to camp out for a little bit and talk about what this is. But someone will ask, how are the dead raised? With what kind of body do they come? You foolish person, someone with no common sense. What you sow does not come to life unless it dies. And what you sow is not the body that is to be, but a bare kernel, perhaps of wheat or some other grain. So you put a kernel in, but what comes out doesn't look like the kernel. Like if you put an apple seed in, you don't get apple seeds, you get an apple tree with apples. So what goes in the ground is not always exactly what comes out of the ground. However, if you plant apple seeds, you're not going to get a pear tree, or even a partridge in that pear tree. And so he says that, we have to die. Then verse 38, but God gives it a body as he has chosen, and to each kind of seed its own body. For not all flesh is the same, but there's one kind for humans, another for animals, another for birds, and another for fish. And we understand this. Physics was a science that I get and understand. Biology, not so much. So I don't know much about biology by any stretch, certainly not zoology, but the reality is even someone that knows very little about it, like me, understands that birds are constructed differently than human beings. They have hollow bones and feathers and don't have hands, they get wings, all that kind of stuff. And that fish are different as well. Fish are designed to get their oxygen from water. We're designed to get our oxygen from air. And so there are differences between fish and humans and birds and all that kind of thing. So that all makes sense. So there are different types of bodies. And he says, and then there's heavenly bodies and earthly bodies. But the glory of the heavenly is one kind, the glory of the earthly is another. So we have different, the stars have a different kind of glory than the mountains and the oceans, kind of thing. There is one glory of the sun, another glory of the moon, another glory of the stars, for star differs from star in glory. And we get all that. So what in the world does that have to do with the resurrection that's going to happen for us when Jesus returns? Well, he says in verse 42, so it is with the resurrection of the dead. What is sown is perishable. That means we die. But what is raised is imperishable. It is sown in dishonor, it is raised in glory. It is sown in weakness, it is raised in power. It is sown a natural body, it is raised a spiritual body. If there's a natural body, there's also a spiritual body. Thus it is written, the first Adam became a living being. The last Adam became a life-giving spirit. So the first Adam is actually the guy Adam. The last Adam is Jesus. So Adam is our representative as human beings, and in him we have death, because he sinned, and in Adam all have sinned. We have inherited his sinful nature. However, Jesus, if he is your representative, if you've put your faith in him, if he is your representative, your federal head, then in him there is everlasting life. So all of us have Adam as our representative. Christians have Jesus as their new representative, the last Adam, who is a life-giving spirit. But it's not the spiritual that is first, but the natural and then the spiritual. The first man was from the earth, I was born from the dust, a man of dust. The second man is from heaven. As was the man of dust, so also are those who are of the dust, and as the man of heaven, so also are those who are of heaven. Just as we have borne the image, it's actually the Greek word icon, the image of the man of dust, we shall also bear the image of the man of heaven. Now, man, that's just a lot of words and can be confusing. So I want to see if I can illustrate what the Bible is saying here and then talk a little bit about the application for you and me and why it's so significant. So you may have noticed behind me, I have a bass guitar. I enjoy playing the bass. If you attend First Baptist Chandler, you know you've probably seen me playing this actual bass guitar most Sundays. And so this is a Warwick 4-string bass. I've owned it for a number of years, and it kind of fits me. It's a great bass guitar, and this is the one that I play a lot. So now picture this, especially since it's brown and kind of dusty colored, that this is the human body. Now what happens is we die, and when we die, this body goes away. It may go away because we buried it and it decomposes. It may go away because it's been cremated. It may go away because it's been tossed into the sea off the side of a ship. But whatever the case, that body is going to be gone. That's why the Bible talks about it being sown. It's going to disappear. Now at the resurrection, we're going to be different. This is a Cort 5-string bass. This bass actually will play notes that this bass will not. This bass only has 4 strings. This bass actually has an extra string, a 5th string, that plays a few lower notes than this guitar will play. And so this is 4-string, this is the 5-string. This bass guitar I also love. I enjoy playing it. It has a little mellower sound than that one, and the slides sound a little better. But this one, you'll notice, has some names on it. I actually got this guitar autographed by one of my favorite bands, Disciple, a number of years ago. They played a concert at our church. Now, what's the difference between this one and this one? Well, some of the differences are obvious. This one is a black guitar. That one is wood-colored. This one has 5 strings as opposed to 4. This one actually has a couple of tuning knobs and a couple of volume knobs, one for each of the pickups. This guitar actually only has 3 knobs. One is volume, and then one is tone, and then one actually allows you to individually adjust the bass and the treble. It's a double stack knob. And so there are some differences, but there are also some similarities between these two guitars. A lot of similarities. You know, maybe wondering, okay, that's great. You've got a couple guitars, and so what? What does that have anything to do with the resurrection? Well, see, here's the deal. When Jesus comes back, according to 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, we are going to be raised from the ground to meet him. So here's what happens. This is me, immaterial part, what we might call my soul if we want to, or my spirit. This is the material part. Together, I'm alive. When these two separate, I'm dead. That's what we find physically dead. Okay? So here's what's crazy. This part, the physical part's alive, the spiritual part's dead. When I'm born again, they're now both alive. When I separate, they're dead. So this is death. When someone dies, their body and their spirit are separated. So what happens to the spirit? Well, if you're a believer, if you belong to God through Jesus Christ, the spirit goes to be with him in heaven, or what's sometimes called paradise or Abraham's bosom. If you're not a believer, then it goes to hell, separation from God. Now, the spirit will remain in one of those two locations until the day that Jesus comes back, whenever that is. When Jesus comes back, there'll be a bodily resurrection. There'll be a uniting of the spirit with that body. For a non-believer, this will now go to what's called the lake of fire and brimstone forever. For believers, this will now go to the New Jerusalem, described in Revelation chapter 21, where we will spend forever in the presence of God. Okay? Now note carefully the words that I said. There is a bodily resurrection. What's going to happen is not the resurrection of this body, because it'll die again. It'll start to wear out after just a few decades. There'll be problems. It'll get sore. The heart will eventually stop beating. We don't want to continually rise and die over and over again. So we're not going to have a resurrection of our body. Instead, we're going to have a new body, one that's designed to live forever in heaven. It's fantastic. But this is what I want you to realize. There's still a lot of similarities. I believe, because they did recognize Jesus, some of them, it took them a while, but they recognized him, that we will be recognizable in heaven. I don't think that I will come back as a 7-foot tall Asian man. I'll come back probably as still 5'8" and white. So my eyes will, I think, will be the same color. I don't know if I'll come back with the hair I had as a young man or like I am now. The Bible's not real clear on all the details. I'm going to have 2 legs and 2 feet, and 2 arms, and there'll be, so in other words, there are going to be some similarities, but this is a body with nothing wrong with it. This is a body untainted by sin. It's going to be a body designed to last forever. And so we understand that there are people who are born with physical or mental challenges. They got special needs. And so we realize that those will not exist in heaven. There'll be no kind of physical or mental limitations. And I don't understand how that'll work out. In other words, what I'm saying is, when we think about our resurrection, we are going to get a body back with our soul. So we're going to live in a physical body forever. We are made to be physical beings. We're not spirits that are trapped inside of a body. We are a soul that's a body and a spirit together, both of them. At separation, there's death, and then someday there'll be a reuniting. But the reuniting, the spirit will be the same, but the body, though there are a lot of similarities, it's still going to look like a human being. We're not going to come back as a fish or a bird, be united. But this body, unlike the one that we inherited as descendants of Adam, we've inherited from the resurrected Jesus. And so Jesus, when he rose from the dead, has a body designed to last forever. And we will have a body designed to be with him forever. So we don't have to think, I got to go through this again. But we will have a body, something with which we are familiar. There will be a completion of the act of salvation. And so we look forward to the day when we will have a new body. So it will not be a resurrection of the old body. It will be a bodily resurrection. It will be our body, but it will be a new body designed and fit to live forever in heaven, with many similarities, I believe, particularly in appearances, to the one that we have on the earth right now. So, as we think about Jesus' resurrection, Jesus didn't come back with the same body. He had a different body. He walked through walls, all kinds of crazy stuff. And so there's a difference, but there are also similarities. So we believe in a bodily resurrection, not a resurrection of the body, meaning the old body. So I just want to give some of that clarification for Easter, and I want to say one more thing about this, why I believe this is important as well. When I was a child, and when I was a young pastor, attended or preached funerals. I rarely preach funerals anymore. Now they're mostly memorial services, because due to expenses, the overwhelming majority of people now are cremated rather than actually buried in the ground. And I've had people ask me, is cremation a sin? The answer is no. The earth gives up its dead, the sea gives up its dead. If it was to be a resurrection of this original body, then we might argue that cremation is not a good thing. But the reality is, it's a new body that's coming out, not made from the dust of this world. It's a new body, a new composition. So it's fine if you are cremated or a loved one is cremated. It is not a sin, and it's not like God's got to put it back together. God's not putting it back together. God is giving us a new body, but again, one that has some similarities to the old body. Like the guitars, though there are differences, there are also a lot of similarities. So we have something to look forward to if we are believers in Jesus, the resurrection of a new body designed to live in heaven forever. We also have a warning that there'll be a resurrection of the body for unbelievers that's designed to live forever, but not in heaven, but in the lake of fire and brimstone, separated from God forever. So I hope that you have put your faith in Jesus, whose resurrection we celebrate this Sunday, and that you celebrate his resurrection, guaranteeing our future resurrection, our future bodily resurrection, that what went in will not come out the same, will come out designed and planned by God to exist forever in heaven, worshiping and celebrating him. So may God bless you. Have a great day and have a fantastic Easter.